Yeah, we should be online now. Let me see on LinkedIn how it is showing. Yeah, we are online.
Okay.
Let's wait for some more time. Let's wait for people joining. Good evening, everyone, and good morning to the other part of the world as well. Okay, let's begin now. So, welcome again. Very good evening. And this is OT Security Huddle 8. Today, we are taking the interesting topic enhancing product security for industrial assets. And joining me is Manjunath, our regular in OT Security Huddle, and our guest, Sakti Kumar Manohar. And today, we'll be going through the testing aspect of products, and we'll be digging into the IEC 62443 standard as well. A lot to discuss, a lot to talk. So, before I'll begin and introduce our guest, a friendly reminder about the discussions that we do is that all the discussions and the talks that we do is the personal opinion and originated out of the personal interest. It has nothing to do and does not necessarily represent the opinions of the organization we are individually associated with. Yeah. So, having said that, welcome Manju, welcome Shakti. Maybe I'll just quickly invite you for a quick introduction, Shakti. But before that, Manju, thanks again for coordinating, and Shakti, thank you for taking time out for discussing on this session.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Shiv. Thanks for the introduction. So yeah, myself, Shakti. Shiv, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Thank you. So yeah, myself, Shakti. I work as a OT cybersecurity manager with GE. And when Manjunath approached me for the OT cybersecurity hurdle, I was a bit excited. I attended few of your sessions before, and it was very useful. So since we are touching some of the challenging points in OT cybersecurity, I was really excited to join the huddle. Yeah, thanks you, thank you.
Thanks, Shakti, and thanks, Manju, for coordinating this. So maybe I'll just quickly switch my screens, and then we can start digging the topic, the testing aspects of security. But before we start the topic, I will ask the general question to you that how do you feel this testing as a field in OT security is different from the other topics like risk assessment or maybe secure architectures or testing? What is your feeling? Is it more challenging? Is it equally challenging? Maybe Manju, you can also add because I know you have also been doing testing
Hmm.
earlier when you were in your previous organization, but here also as part of your projects. So, and one of the theme of OT security huddle, we really want to bring the experience out, not some theoretical or rote learning. And that is why I ask such questions: that how do you feel it, the kind of challenges that you have faced in
Hmm.
your work while you're addressing the testing aspect, specifically the product testing in OT.
Right, right, Shiv. Yeah, that's a very logical question. Yes, Shiv. It's been extremely difficult when we do the testing at the very first time, right? For example, since maybe let's say 3 years back, when we procure a software newly, for example, a vulnerability assessment software like Nessus, and we do it on the controller or on the control system, so we don't get any references. Like we don't have a proper lengthy procedures, a step by step guidelines to follow. So that's where we face a lot of challenges, Shiv. But of course, we have to try many people. We have to try asking many people about the issues and how to solve these challenges. Initially, it was a bit complicated because of this lack of reference, but moving forward, yes, it started getting very interesting. Going inside the systems and getting to know about the IT side of OT system, meaning the components inside the products. So it became very interesting. Initially, it was very complicated. Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
now,
to add to Shakti's point, there was one more challenge apart from the testing. To bring everyone on the same page, it's the biggest challenge. What I felt is, bring all the stakeholders who involved and to share our thing like the security by design. So when we were facing difficulty in explaining everything for the non-security, for guys. So for me, that was the biggest challenge because even any project or for that matter in any OEMs. So that was the challenge because this software development team might not understand the importance of security in by default. So that is where I felt that challenge. But as Shakti told, yeah. So
It's
that's it.
true.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a very valid point. Yeah, bringing people to the table and agreeing that security testing is also one of the important aspect before releasing the product. Typically, in the pressure of releasing the product on time, people would tend to ignore the security aspect because they fear that if there will be a finding, then we need to take some more time to release the product before fixing it. And yesterday, I was talking to one of my colleague. This happens, pretty often. That the uh, development guys, they will say either don't go too deep or just scratch the surface and then give me these low hanging fruits. We'll fix them, and maybe we'll fix those bigger vulnerabilities in the next release or next cycle of development as such. Yeah, that's a very valid point. So now I give this to you, Sakti. You should be able to navigate the slides that you are sharing now. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Shiv. Thank you. Yeah, let me go through the topic. So, hello everyone. Good evening. Uh, Thanks for joining the session, and I thank Manju and Manjunath and Shiv for for this opportunity. And about the agenda, like we are going to discuss the following people. Like for example, so we'll start with embedding security testing into development cycle, right? Then we'll look about what are the different types of security testing. Then how do we enhance the product security with the help of 4-2? So we'll see a basic glimpse of what 4-2 is telling, and how it can help to enhance the product security. Then let's go through a flow chart of a product level risk assessment. So it's a very tailored flow chart, and it's on a very high level. And also, before concluding, we'll go through the list of product security controls that can be potentially applied on a product, right? And finally, to the Q&A. So the entire slides has been crafted in a way that if we are applying these techniques to the process and to the technology, the we should be improving enhancing the product security. Of course, it's a long journey, but let's start the discussion now, right? So the first topic is embedding security testing into development lifecycle, right? So usually we know there is a software development lifecycle in every product supplier company, right? So it exists already, and they follow the process, software development lifecycle process. It goes like this, right? So the first one is a requirement analysis. So they will get the requirements from the stakeholders, leadership, and also they will get the requirements from various projects, right? So all the requirements will be gathered, and the requirement analysis will happen in a meeting, right? So we'll do the analysis of the requirements, and whatever requirements is valuable to the leadership and to the product manager, so that will be taken to the next steps, right, which is the design and development stage. So first we'll look into the insight circle, and this speaks about the software development lifecycle, which is SDLC, right? And the outside comments that we have added is basically the portion that we wish to embed into the SDLC, right? And so in this analysis phase, what we want to embed is basically identify and define the security requirements as well. So, of course, there will be some customer requirements which is very specific to cybersecurity, right? And some, if let us say the leadership and the executive team is very interested in cybersecurity, definitely there will be some cybersecurity inputs from that team as well. So all these inputs, consolidated security requirements has to be identified and analyzed. So this should be the first stage. And right, so this is the first stage of let's say embedding security into the testing. And the next phase is the design phase, right? As we know, in a software development lifecycle, design phase is where, like, we'll write the design specification. For example, the requirements that we got in the analysis phase would be a one liner, right? So it would be just like a one line, one line we'll get from the customer or from the leadership team. And the design phase, where we'll think about the onliner, and we will write some phrases. So, and we will make it as a design specification, right? And so what we are recommending is, during the design specification, we should also consider the security design review. Meaning, while conducting the security design review, we will have a clear understanding of what all the security requirements that will go inside the software development lifecycle, right? And next comes the development phase. And in the development phase, obviously, some kind of frameworks or IDE will be used to develop the application. And what we are trying to add here to the development phase is basically to have a software quality plan. So, every organization will definitely have a software quality plan. So in the software quality plan, secure by design concept shall be embedded, right? Most of us know what is secure by design. So, like, secure by design involves secure coding practices, and following such certain guidelines while developing the software, and doing some security testing along the development life cycle. So adding the secure by design concepts or guidelines into the software quality plan will ensure that it is followed by the entire development team, right? So this is what we wanted to add, so that we'll enhance the product security. And during the testing phase, what usually happens is the application, the product, the software, firmware, or any other application that will come for testing. So testing would be, right, functionality testing, right? So we'll be testing whatever we have expected during the design phase has come out well or not. That's what we usually do, right? And along with this, what we are recommending is to perform some security testing on the product. For example, the static application security testing, DAST, SCA, VAPT, etc. So, in the upcoming slides, we'll dive deeper into this each topics. So this is what we want to embed into the testing phase, right? To the normal SDLC. And the final phase would be the maintenance phase. So usually in this maintenance phase, any patches would be fixed, usual SDLC. Any patch required for the product, that will be validated and fixed. And if any other bugs, let us say bugs from the customers, that will be fixed during the maintenance window. And what we are recommending is to have a continuous monitoring of identification of emerging threats and vulnerabilities, right? So, for example, recently, not quite recently, Log4j has been publicly disclosed. So whichever products was using log4j had to mitigate that specific vulnerability, right? So we should be continuously monitoring the monitoring for threats, and if something comes up, we have to take action at this phase, at the maintenance phase, right? So by following or embedding these approaches, we could definitely enhance the product security. Of course, we can think like this is SDLC, and this is what we are trying to do is basically secure SDLC, right? SSDLC. But this will add value to the product, and this will enhance the product security at the end, right? So that's the point.
Yes,
Shiv,
Shakti.
Manju,
Yeah.
yeah, hi.
I just wanted to highlight a few things here.
Yeah.
Based on your experience, Shakti, this I mean we know that there are a lot of softwares which are running in the legacy systems, even in many plants. If you take out in the global, just leave it out the the greenfield projects. Consider the brownfield projects where there
Mm,
is no security was that is what security by design. But as an any OEM for that matter, how do you think that why the security by design is so important? That's the
mm.
question which usually people ask, right?
Right.
What Because the system is running without any glitch, or even we have not seen much of the attacks on
Mm,
based on this security by design itself. Then why do
mm,
I need to spend so much time and effort? So
mm.
what is that importance of security by design? What happens if
Right.
it is not taken care? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Right.
Maybe before you answer, Sakti,
Yeah.
I was asking the same question, but in a different way.
Right.
Can you give one a practical example, or maybe can you just share one experience where
Mm, mm.
you had done testing post the release, and then
Right.
you have to go back and fix the product? And in another case, you have adopted this testing and security by design in
Mm.
product development, and that's how did these two different cases differ? Because we definitely know that
Right.
moving security left is more economical compared to doing the security testing later and then coming back to
Mm.
uh, a sketchboard and then changing the architecture maybe, and sometimes it is not possible to fix the vulnerability at all. So do
Right.
you have some experience doing that? That's one part. And second part is it's a SDLC. So
Yeah.
which SDLC is better for ICS systems? Do you feel it's a uh, old school model, the waterfall model, or the new school model, agile model? Which one is better?
Right. Right, Shiv. So yeah, yes, Shiv. So yes, coming to this questions, right? So for Manjunath's question, how do we justify secure by design to the internal stakeholders as well to the customers? So basically, yes, the legacy systems running out there have, as we know, they have multiple vulnerabilities which is still exposed. Right? Of course, it's exposed, but it is not exploited. That's the only reason it's running for years and years. But slowly, since the threats land we can say threat landscape is evolving, as well as the attacks are increasing. Since more and more attacks are happening, it's not good to leave the threats, it's not good to leave the threats open, since we know that we can do something on the legacy systems. So that's why it is very important to address the secure by design. For asset owners, of course, it's basically upgrading their softwares, but it adds more value to the product suppliers. So if the secure by design is adapted very early in the product development, definitely we could able to minimize the risk a lot, in operations. For example, instead of putting what to say investments into the defense in depth architecture, so of course we have to put a defense in depth architecture, there is no doubt in that, but we can address the issue at its core. So right, that's secure by design. So that's what I wanted to make a point. That's one thing. And coming to Shiv, your question, right? Very true, Shiv. We always try to shift to the left, meaning like we want to, of course, it will minimize the time when we do all the testing beforehand. But but there are some scenarios, right, Shiv? Meaning like there will be stringent timelines, there will be some customer expectations for the software delivery. For because of these, we can say these are some not pain points, but these are the points, criterias that we need to meet as a company. For example, we have to deliver the software on time, and the team might be overloaded. They might be overloaded with some other development. They may not be developing the only software, only single product. They might be developing multiple products. So for that reason, even though we have done the security testing and we have submitted the reports, sometimes the reports will be shelved for some time due to some other reasons like which I've listed, and then it will be taken at the later stage, maybe in the upcoming release or in the next release. Then it will be fixed based on the severity. So that's still happening, Shiv. um, Definitely, I think it's a very challenging, that too in OT environment. It's, as Manjunath pointed, it's very challenging to convince the internal development team itself. And after convincing the internal development team, we will understand at some point they also have limitations. So finally, it all comes down to time, budget, resource, all these, Shiv.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And coming to your next question, Shiv, what I recently see is between waterfall and agile, right? Agile is getting more and more adapted in the industry. For example, we start working with a very vague requirements. For example, let us build a vulnerability. I'm just making this up. Let us build a vulnerability assessment solution. Something like that requirement will come in. We'll not be very clear at the beginning what to do, where to go, how to start. But with agile model, it's more like, we will be discovering the requirements day by day, and of course the model will help to adapt to our day by day discoveries. So agile is, I see, it's more frequently used nowadays. So even I'm a fan of agile model rather than waterfall. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Great. Great. Thanks for the questions, guys. And moving to the next slide. So as I mentioned, like, we'll go through the different types of security testing, right? So the static application security testing is SAST. It basically can analyze the source code, right? That's what it can do. It analyze the source code to identify vulnerabilities in the source code itself, and it also can able to exactly pinpoint in which line there is an issue, and what type of issue it, and what is the remediation for that, right? And it is very suitable for CI/CD pipeline, continuous integration, and continuous development pipeline integration. Meaning like all these SAST tools, there are numerous SAST tools that is available in the market, both premium and as well as open source tools. So it comes with APIs, it comes with Docker compatibility, so that we can integrate this in the CI/CD pipeline, and make it as an automated process. So once a code is compiled and submitted in the Git repository, it can be automated. The SAST testing will automatically run and give the reports to the developer, right? So that saves the time, and this is the shifting to the left approach, what Shiv mentioned, right? And some of the common vulnerabilities that it can find is SQL injection vulnerabilities on the code. I'm not going deeper into the type of language used and all, just going on the high level. SQL injection, buffer overflow vulnerabilities, Of course, buffer overflow arise due to improper memory management, right? So that is one reason why overflow occurs. And any usage of deprecated functions, which is any usage of vulnerable functions or obsolete function calls, any structural flaws, and any memory management issues, right? For example, a memory is allocated but for on a variable, but different pointer is used, or a memory is allocated for a specific variable and it is not freed properly. That's basically buffer overflow. So these kind of common vulnerabilities, the SAST can find it on the code level, and it can able to warn the developer beforehand. So this is basically securing by design, right? And the next one is DAST, dynamic application security testing. So the difference is the DAST, we will do it on a dynamic application. So for example, then an application which is running, and be it an application, software, firmware, or even a hardware, running hardware. And some of the tools that we'll be using for this is, again, we have numerous tools for running a DAST. Common tools are Nessus, Burp Suite, OWASP, Zap. So these are some common tools that is used for DAST scanning, right? So it can detect like OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities. For example, if it is a product that contains a web application, or some web server, so we can run a web application scanning using Burp Suite or OWASP Zap, which can able to find OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities, right? And also it can able to detect some publicly disclosed vulnerabilities when we use tools like this Nessus, Qualys, and these are some vulnerability assessment tools, right? So this will help us in greatly reducing the vulnerabilities on the product by combining SAST, DAST, and SEA, right? So SEA is basically software composition analysis. And this is a very interesting tool, basically. So usually, as we know, initially softwares were developed in isolation. Let's say a decade back, softwares are developed without help of any frameworks, or without help of let's say function blocks, or building blocks, we can say. So that time it was pure code, right? For everything we have to do coding from scratch. But nowadays, since these low code concepts are coming in, so we have ready made function blocks or libraries available to pull and drag into an IDE, and we can start doing an AND logic or logic to these libraries, right? So we got that flexibility now. So because of this, we have the issue of dependency. So for example, if I use library 1, so the library 1 will be dependent on library 2. So let's say if library 2 is deprecated or it is obsolete for some reason, library 1 will not work, right, without library 2. So we have to update library 1 as well. So that's where the dependency tree will come in, right? The software composition analysis tool will analyze the code for dependencies, and it will form a dependency tree. So that dependency tree will be validated, right? It will be validated for any vulnerable CVE, or whether all the libraries are up to date, all the dependencies are perfectly syncing. So it will check for that. So if not, again a report will be sent to the developer for updating the libraries. So again, this is well suited for CI/CD pipelines. It again comes in Docker containers, and also it has APIs for CI/CD integration. And moreover, Nessus, Qualys, these kind of vulnerability assessment tools also support Docker, and APIs support is available. But manual scanning, what we feel is, when we do more and more manual vulnerability assessment or manual web application scanning, we could find more vulnerabilities when compared to an automated scan, right? So this we prefer to do manually, and the rest too we can integrate and automate, right?
Yeah, Shakti,
Yes,
just
yes, ma'am.
this. So when we say the security testing, before that, I would like to add, ask a question that usually in any software development, the testing will be involved on a functionality level, whether it's working as per intended manner. But when we say the security testing, often people ask me that the product security testing specifically, if they are from software background, which they don't have the security, already they don't have understanding of the security, but will this be it is more on the career aspect, but still what is that difference between when we say the security testing and the normal software testing? If you
Hmm.
can throw some light on this, that would
Right.
really help.
Sure, sure. Definitely. Yes, Manju. Yeah, that's a very good question. Basically, yes, software testing is where we will test the actual software which is developed for the functionalities, right? So whether the features are working properly, and we of course we will have the test cases. So it depends on the organization. The software testing will be like a manual testing, or sometimes it will be automated testing with the help of some automated tools. So ultimately what we do is we see all the expected functions that is approved in the design phase is visible now, is working properly as per the design specifications. So that's what we see in the software testing. And for software testing, as you know, Manju, like a tool specific skill is required. For example, if it's an automated testing, so some tools are out in the market, so specific tool related knowledge is required. And in terms of, let's say, our security testing, again, it's of course it is tool specific. We have numerous tools, as we know, as we mentioned, we have numerous tools for the SAST, especially for SAST, SCA. uh, Open source tools are there, a lot of tools are there. And the additional knowledge what we require here is the we can say the it's the ethical hacking knowledge would definitely helpful. So for example, how the SQL injection attack works, how the buffer overflow attack works, right? So apart from normal software knowledge, definitely ethical hacking knowledge would be very vital, Manju, for the person who is doing the security testing.
Yeah, just to add to that, will it be possible that for any software development team who conducts this type of testing, I mean, just to give a clear thought on this, whether there will be a separate team who conducts the security testing, or the the person who test the software, uh, will it be possible for him or her to test this even in security aspects?
Right, right, Manju.
So the
So
reason why asking is, many people ask me on LinkedIn that since we have worked with OEMs, so whether these automation testing people can join this such of such jobs, where if they have some skill set, is there any jobs available in the market, probably based on your experience, that
hmm.
this kind of testing jobs are available?
Right, right. So yeah, yeah, got your question. So Manju, like it's usually the common practice is, right, to have a dedicated security testing team. Of course, if the organization supports, if the bandwidth supports, it is very ideal to have a separate team to do the security testing, so that the people with proper skill sets can be allocated for this kind of testing. As I mentioned, we definitely we need the ethical hacking related knowledge. We need red teaming knowledge and pen testing knowledge, right? And for anybody to come into this domain, it's basically we can also put it in this terms, Manju. Like we know, in cybersecurity there are different roles, right? There is a cyber analyst role, there is a cyber architect role. So what we are speaking about is mostly the cyber analyst part. So the analyst will with come with the ethical hacking and pen testing skills, Manju. So for the people who are aspiring to do the security testing and penetration testing, right? So they can definitely take up this kind of jobs. Of course, it is very well available in the market as well. some of the OEMs on the OT side as well post a lot of openings on pen testing. So definitely to improve their product security, as a measure to improve their product security, we can say many jobs are being posted on day-to-day basis specifically for pen testing and security testing. Right, the demand is there in the market, Manju. At least right now we could able to see. I'm not sure about the future, but right now we could able to see. Yeah,
And I can say that in future it is going to increase only
right.
because security is being considered as one of the core topic in the discussions now.
Yeah.
But I think there are a bunch of questions related to this. Generally, we take at the end of the session, but since we have already mentioned that, a couple of people are asking that what are the tools that we could use for SAST and DAST. So
Right.
maybe we can name one or two. As far as I know, for SAST, SonarQube, Poverty, these are the tools that are generally used. But
Exactly.
if you have something different
Yeah.
language, there are n number of tools that could be used. What
Mm.
is your opinion on this?
True, true, Shiv. We have personally used Coverty. Many open source tools are available for SAST. As you mentioned, there are some other tools like Veracode and also Synapses support some other tools. But an extensive list is available in the OASP community. Right,
Yes.
Shiv? Yeah, yeah. So in the OASP projects, if we could navigate, we could find the entire list of SAST tools that is available in open source and as well as for premium. So yeah,
Yeah, and maybe a bunch of tool for Dast as well. People
true,
are
true.
asking about Dast also.
Okay.
So I think you have already mentioned that NASA's Qalis, but there could be different tools for different objectives. So I know DefenseX is also used as one of the tool
Mm,
for product testing, and then for testing, the fuzzing, there are different fuzzers that are available, specifically designed for industrial control systems.
right.
And OEMs will also have their own tool chains. So maybe your organization might have its own tool developed over the years to do specific test cases that they have created over the years.
Exactly. Exactly, Shiv. Adding to these tools, Shiv, like Nessus Qual is also few tools that, I mean, people who have done the ethical hacking, they will be very familiar with these tools like Nikto, Nmap, and other port scanners can also be categorized as a DAS tool, since we are interacting with a dynamic application.
Yeah. I would also like to add bunch of things here. Like we have discussed SaaS, DAST, but there are two different other types of testing are also generally discussed. One is the interactive application security testing, and then is the runtime application security testing. So more or less you have covered in SaaS and DAST bucket itself, but sometimes there may be specific requirement that are not addressed during the CI/CD pipeline, and then
Mm,
runtime application testing could be one of the use case that is
right.
generally would be required. Specifically for embedded systems, it might be required for doing a separate testing.
Right, right. True. Yeah, I agreed, Shiv. I think runtime testing, I haven't done it personally, but definitely yes. We have covered the major types of testing here. So yeah, as you mentioned, still it is there in the I know
Yeah.
bucket to integrate with CI/CD pipeline. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, we'll move forward then.
sure, sure. Yes, Shiv. So we'll move to the next slide. So yeah, people like, so the next one is it's a very basic slide. You might have already seen this, but still I wanted to talk about this, right? Because it's we can say it's the spine of product security. Adapting to ISA IEC 62443-4-2. So before going into the requirements, so I'd like to mention this. So now we have especially I'm making this point, like we have to adapt to 4-2, but still based on the geographical location and based on the sector the OEMs are providing service, the standards and guidelines varies, right? The requirement varies. For example, the in USA, this is just for an example. In USA, NIST is very popular. NIST and FIPS are very popular. So when we go sector specific, right? When we go to energy sector, NERC is very popular. So it depends purely on sector and region. But nowadays, people are unanimously agreeing on ISA IEC 62443 standards and substandards, right? Because of the clarity it gives to the people, and also it can be mapped to any other regional standard, and that regional standard can be satisfied with some more additional labor, right? So that's the thought. But however, in today's agenda, we'll discuss about 4-2, the basic stuffs about 4-2, right? So the 4-2, it comes with 7 foundational requirements, and inside the foundational requirements we have the component requirements. So in today's discussion, we'll go on a high level with the foundational requirements alone. So the first one is identification and authentication control, right? So this is basically, if we take a product, the product will have different interfaces, right? So the product will have a web interface, the product might have a console interface, so there will be variable interface for an user to interact. So this is basically securing those interfaces. So by securing those interfaces, we ensures that only authorized personnel can log in into the product, right? So that's the main idea of this FR IAC, right? So this takes care of the authentication portion, and also the identification and authentication portion, we can say. And the use control is about managing the permissions, right? It's more about the authorization. For example, the role based access control. Who will do what? So what will be the roles, and what would be the specific rights for that specific user, right? So this will be defined very clearly under the use control requirements. So the use control will have again a subset of requirements that will make the product uh, uh, to structure roles and rights, we can say, with least privileges. So for example, for every user we cannot give full rights, right? So that's what the standard also tells. So for each user, what right is actually required, that has to be logically analyzed, and that right has to be given to that user. So that role right assignment, in other words, the role based access control is freezed under the use control. So by this, we will manage the permissions for the different users that are entering into the product, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, yes, sure.
No, yeah, continue. I was just saying, absolutely a valid point that this access control and putting up different roles is one of the area that we should focus more. And
Mm,
my testing experience says that escalation of privileges could be one of the weak point, or bypassing the business logic could be another area that could be originated because of the improper access control implementation. So
right,
it's a very valid point. Yeah.
right, absolutely, Shiv. Yeah, that's very true. So of course the threat is privilege escalation. So different types of threats are there. Yeah. So moving to the next foundation requirement, it is system integrity, right? So this requirements will make the product to maintain some amount of consistency, and accuracy is there in the data that is transmitted, as well as the data that is stored in the rest. So basically, this is to protect against tampering attacks, any kind of tampering attacks or man in the middle attacks. So these attacks can be protected by this requirements, right? So ultimately, what this ensures is, we have to classify the data, whichever data is very critical for the control system, or if we take a product, whichever data is very critical, we have to first label it, and then that specific data has to be protected, For example, protected from tampering. Few mechanisms can be used. For example, we can use a checksum based protection, or we can base a digital signature based verification, so that once the verification fails, and if we get any logs that verification of this XYY file is failed, then we'll come to know that some kind of tampering is attempted or is already happened on that specific file, right? So this is how data protection is done through this system integrity, right? And data confidentiality. So data confidentiality, this obviously protects data from unauthorized access and disclosure. So let's say, like, in a product, like, some amount of data is given to let's say it is read authorized to another person. So we will be transferring this data to somebody else also, and we would like to maintain confidentiality. So let's say we'll send this data only to from X to Y, and will not send it from X to Z and Y to Z, right? So it should not be transmitted outside X and Y. So that's where we want to maintain data confidentiality. Again, here we have to bring in some protection mechanisms to prevent data confidentiality. And the restricted data flow. The restricted data flow, this speaks about the control of data. So this is about restricting the flow of data. It's more, it's more applicable on a system level. So on a system level, we will have a bigger architecture, and if there is a flat network, the data will be broadcasted everywhere in the flat network. So we would like to restrict the data between the zones, right? That's what happened on the system level. And similarly, on the product level, this has to be thought on a when we think on a product level. It's like, let's say the product has some 3 to 4 nick cards, right? And we don't want to share data between these nick cards. So we want to restrict the data flow with a single nick card, right? So we don't want to broadcast the data between nick card 1 and nick card 5. So right. So that's the point in restricting the data flow. And of course, a detailed study has to be done on the requirement side, and also on the product level we have to do a detailed study. And finally, we have to jot down some solution for this restricted data flow and all these requirements per se. And timely response to events, this covers auditing, basically access to auditable logs, like whether what users like can able to access these auditable logs, and is it read only or somebody can able to modify it. So these kind of requirements will be captured here. And resource availability is basically a protection against DOS attack. And also resource management, like a protection against DOS attack is how long the product can able to withstand for a DOS attack, right? It's all about the time and robustness of the product. And we, as Shiv pointed, we use different first testing tool and a storming tool to find that threshold point. And also resource management, how well the resource are managed in the product. For example, the security of the product should not affect the normal functionality of the product, right? So the resource management should be you know should be done properly during the design itself. It should be done properly. For example, let's say we are doing in a running plant. Of course, this is not recommended, but I'm just saying for discussion. In a running plant, if we are conducting a vulnerability assessment, right, this is a service we are starting from our side. So this service can essentially hamper the service. Let's say some other web service that is running on the product itself is categorized as a low priority service, right? So when the vulnerability assessment service comes in, this low priority service will be scheduled, or it will be kept on hold for some time. So that should not happen. So these resource management has to be thought through, and on the product level it has to be thought through. So all these requirements with respect to resource management will be captured under RA, right? And moving to the security levels, right? So we have, as we know, maybe I'll run through this quickly. So the security levels, as we all know, we have from SL1 to SL4. SL1 is basically protection against some unintentional or accidental misuse. So it's accidental, and it's very basic also. When we move to SL2, right, it is protecting from generic skills, like the attacker with generic skills and low motivation, and and he's having very few resource. So SL2, we can say, it's like some medium skilled attacker is trying to hack into the critical infrastructure. But SL3 and SL4 are very stringent level of protections, also where many sophisticated level of security controls will be deployed. So by doing that, we'll be protecting against any control system specific skilled personnel, and with some moderate and high motivation that is coming to disrupt the operations, right? It could be a state sponsored attack, it could be an activist attack, or it could be a cyber espionage. So it could be anything. So any thoughts, Shiv, on adapting to 4-2, Shiv or Manju?
Yeah, so Manju is not there on the call now. He has to
Okay.
quit. Yeah, but absolutely valid that you mentioned this. And I think one and additional thing there is ISO Secure's website. Yes, the criteria that could be used for testing against 4-2, whether we are doing component level testing or maybe vulnerability assessment testing, there are a bunch of criteria that are available over there. So maybe it's worth to have a look over those resources available online.
True, true, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So of course, even those requirements are taken seriously by certifying bodies,
Yeah,
right, Shiv? Like when we go for a 4-2 certification, they will cross verify everything with respect to what are the requirements that is posted on ISA Secure, specifically the component security assurance requirements, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. And okay. So moving to the next one, performing a product level risk assessment. So of course, this is not related to we haven't taken any frameworks, or let's say there are, of course, there are many frameworks, right? For example, there is NIST risk assessment framework, risk management framework, and a 3-2 62443 3-2 risk assessment standard for doing the assessment. But what we have written, I mean, what we have drawn here is basically a high level risk assessment flowchart that can be used to determine the risks at the product level, right? So first, we start by defining the risks. So when we start to define the risk, like how do we define the risk? For example, to define the risk, we need something, right? We need some data. The data is basically a threat and vulnerability, right? So the for the product, we have to do a threat modeling. So of course, there are different approaches and different tools used for threat modeling. Like we have this Microsoft threat modeling tool, OASP, Threat Dragon, and there are some new tools that is coming to the market. So we will be doing threat modeling with the help of those tools, and we'll be assessing the threats in the current design. So that threats will be transferred to the risk sheet, right? And similarly, we'll be doing a vulnerability assessment. So by using any type of tool that we have discussed, and those vulnerabilities also will be transferred to the risk sheet. So once it is transferred, then we will determine what is the risk score, basically, right? So of course, we will have a risk matrix based on this is organization specific, right? So based on the risk methodology we choose, we will have our own risk matrix, and a specific based on the likelihood and consequence, we will calculate the risk score, and indeed will get the corresponding severity value, high, medium, or low. So based on the severity value, the risk will be categorized, right? And the next step is basically define existing security controls. So this is just to see where we stand, without applying any mitigation, or without applying any it is during the assessment phase itself, without applying any mitigation, we'll see currently do we have any security controls. So for example, as we spoke, do we have anything with respect to identification, authentication, authorization, integrity verification, and do we have any cryptographic mechanisms in place? So we'll check for those. So if we have any countermeasures, then the risk score will likely be reduced, right? So we will again determine the risk score with controls. So when we do that, so we will get the actual risk score of the current product, right? And finally, we'll go to the risk treatment phase. So in the risk treatment phase, now we will have an entire list of risks in the hand. So with this list, we'll go to the management, and we'll discuss with the management, and based on the appetite, organization's appetite, and of course based on the criticality, the leadership will take a call. So based on those, based on the decisions, either the high severe or medium severe risks will be mitigated. So product level risk assessment is very important, right, as we know, because this helps us to of course keep ourselves organized in terms of when we go for multiple release on the product, keep ourselves organized on where we stand as on today. And also it helps greatly to reduce the vulnerabilities and threats at the design stage, right?
Absolutely valid point.
Yeah.
Yes, ultimately everything, the testing and other security checks, they all boils down to the risk treatment and risk acceptance. How much we are willing to go away while we are releasing the product, and how much is treatable before the release.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's always a final call, that so that would be the difficult point for any security analyst,
Now, what should be
uh,
the threshold here that it
yeah,
should be
yeah.
acceptable? What is acceptable to me is not acceptable to
Exactly.
yeah, the other party. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. True. So I think we have reached the end of the slides. So this is the last slide, but I would like to take some time on this topic. So these are some of the product level security controls, like, right? So we would have known, folks, like we would have known, like on the system level security control, we know there is firewall, we know there is network intrusion detection solution. So there are many, right, on a system level security controls. But on the product level security, on the product level, of course, we have security controls, and here I have listed a few, right? For example, the first would be protecting with username and password, right? So this is the basic security control that we do almost on every product. And on the if we want to enhance the security, then enhance the security on the authentication side, then we go for multi-factor authentication, right? For example, the first factor would be the username and password, and second factor would be anything. It could be on using some kind of authenticator software, or using some kind of a token, or using some kind of hardware, maybe in the form of USB. So it could be anything. And similarly, we have machine to machine authentication. So when we move up in the security ladder, so we need to give some importance to machine authentication. This is the first two is basically user to machine authentication, right? And this is machine to machine. For example, when product our product is, let's take product X, and we have a request from product Y. So in such cases, the request from product Y will only be accepted if the request comes with authentication, right? Or if the request come with proper secret key or a proper token, right? So that's what happens in machine to machine authentication. And nowadays there are many protocols and different ways to do the machine to machine authentication, right? We can use JSON web tokens. We can use cryptographic mechanisms. There are different mechanisms for this. So for M2M authentication, and And for the authorization, as we discussed, we have role based access control, group based access control. We have these type of access control, and also we have IEC standards that speak a lot about role based access control. It gives guidelines for RBAC and all. So definitely, you can check on the Google. You'll get it, the IEC standards for RBAC. And encrypting communications using TLS. So we know, like, all the legacy products, in especially in OT cybersecurity, all the protocols are legacy protocols, right? So here, the challenge comes in. We cannot, let's say a protocol is going open in the network, like in the clear text the passwords are being shared. So we have to find that protocol specifically, and then we have to encrypt it. Like what I'm trying to say is, like, we have a lot of protocols that is unencrypted. It is hardly, impossible to encrypt every protocol that is going in and out of the network. So at least to start with, we have to categorize the critical protocols. For example, the protocols that is traversing from the process control layer to the supervisory layer, or the we can say from control layer to the DMC layer. So we feel whichever is critical, we have to encrypt those communications. So while encryption, we should be careful that will not use the older versions of TLS or SSL. Of course, it's all deprecated. So TLS version 1.3 is the latest one, right? And integrity verification for critical files. So this, as we discussed earlier, we can use either a checksum based approach, or a hashing based approach to a digital signature based approach to verify the integrity. And use of cryptography. So when we use cryptography, like for example, for storing the passwords, we should use some kind of hashing, right? So that hashing algorithm should be like, we should not definitely use MD5, which all deprecated, as most of you know. We should go with SHA-256 or greater. And digital signatures, digital certificates will be definitely used while encrypting the comms. And we should be careful not to use the deprecated or vulnerable cipher suites, right? So all these cryptographic algorithms comes with cipher suites, right? So the cipher suites, or the cipher text, or the basic building blocks of this cryptographic algorithms. So what I have listed here is RC2, RC4, DES, triple DES, IDEA. These all deprecated because of the vulnerabilities, and because of the the collision attacks that people could able to find on these protocols, right? So a dedicated team of cryptographic engineers are working to break every cryptographic algorithm. Right, moving forward, we'll not never know, like, when chart of physics will be deprecated, but of course it will take a decade or more, possibly. And the advanced audit log capability. So advanced audit log capability is like a product, a bare minimum it should have an audit log, at least a log in the form of text file. But a product with advanced security should have advanced audit logs. For example, all these small incidents on the product level, the system related events, application related events, and communication access control related events, everything should be logged properly. And of course, again, there is an IEC standard and a NIST specification which speaks broadly about this audit logging capability and what needs to be logged, right? And backup and restore capability, of course, patch management process, and security settings verification process, right? And by improving the security of the product, we are introducing a lot of security settings on the product, right? So what is happening at some point, there comes in the issue of misconfiguration. So some point, the misconfiguration itself will become a vulnerability. So in order to avoid that, in order to mitigate from that vulnerability, we definitely need to do a security settings verification once the settings are fully done, right? So that's why it is very important. And these are some other sophisticated product level security controls, like secure boot. This will ensure that the operating system or the firmware that is booting, right, it is not tampered, it is legitimate. So nowadays with Windows 11 secure boot is coming as a default feature, so most of you might have seen it. Then provide PKI support for this specific product. So when we are moving towards this encryption and TLS, definitely this certificates will come in picture. So definitely we need a public key infrastructure when we move for SL2 and SL3 level of security, and secure storage for the cryptographic keys. So since there are a lot of cryptographic keys, especially the private keys involved, we should find a way to securely store it. And again, in the latest laptops or computers that are manufactured, right, that are coming with built-in chips, protection chips for this kind of cryptographic key storage, and also disk encryption. So this is to satisfy the data data integrity and data confidentiality requirements, right? So we can encrypt the entire disk so that the data at rest can be protected. So these are the list, folks, the basic list of security controls on product level, right?
Yeah, yeah. So wonderful overview, Shakti. I think we have already passed six
Yeah,
minutes our
yeah,
allocated hour.
yeah.
So yeah, but this was a great overview, and maybe you can quickly conclude, and then we'll take some questions. There are good number
Sure.
of questions that people are asking.
Okay, sure, definitely. Thank you, Shiv. Thank you so much. So, what I'd like to conclude is like, originally the products were developed functionality in mind, right? We never maybe a decade before. It's all functionality. So we started developing products based on functionality, and since the IT/OT convergence is happening nowadays a lot, and also there are because of the evolving technologies, the what to say, the importance that is given to security is more nowadays. And so now we are in a position to retrofit security into the product, right? So that's why product security plays a key role in protecting critical infrastructure. So what we feel is like, of course, the majority of the OT industry people feel is it is very important to secure the core than investing on the security controls on top of the vulnerable product, right? Instead of having a vulnerable product inside and investing more on the security controls, it's better to secure the core first and then protect the boundary later, right? Yeah, I think that's it from my side, Shiv. We have concluded
Yeah,
for today. Yeah,
yeah. Thanks, Sakti. It was a quite a good overview of a product security, as well as touching upon the standards and the key highlight of the discussion is this slide at the end, which tells that okay, these are the controls that we should be focusing on. I'm sure there could be, one session on each of these topics if you have to get deeper into the product security aspect. But yeah, that was a great overview. I'll just put up some questions on the screen now so that we can maybe take a few of them. Some of the questions we have already answered during the discussion itself. So let's take on the questions which are uh, not answered so far.
sure.
So, yeah, one of the question is by Sujis Nojom that how an OEM will decide on the desired security level.
Right. Would you like to answer this question, Shiv? Yeah,
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 maybe I'll just take it. So, the way I understood it so far is like each of the product that is being developed by OEM, it plays a specific role in a specific kind of systems, I think DCS systems or say maybe some SCADA systems. And based on the roles that these components are playing, the security levels are defined. That okay, my system is playing a role of a small SCADA, and I don't require higher end capability, so I'll keep this product into a security level 2 compliant product. If this is playing a bigger role into the industries which are highly critical, then the products are taken up for higher level of security. That's how these are currently decided. But moving forward, I think the effort is to increase the security levels in all the products that are there. Yeah, what is your opinion about it?
Yeah, agreed, Shiv, definitely. This of course the security levels, ideally it is from the in what to say, in industry perspective, the critical systems, right? For example, the products that is, let's take an example of a safety system. The products that is going to be deployed in the safety system would be more critical than the product that is used in a DCS, right? So based on the functionality of that specific product, the security level is decided by the management. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then. mm, yeah, so this question I have already asked in the answered in the chat box, but yeah, let's take it once more.
Right.
Bhuvanesh Chopra has asked that is there any tool which can test how much a product adapted to IC 62443 4-2?
Okay, right. That's a that's a nice question, Bhunesh. Yeah, actually, we would love to have such tool. So far, I think we don't have any automated
No,
tool.
then I'll
Yeah,
break the news to you, Sakti.
yeah,
Seamless
yeah.
have recently released a tool called Synex Security Inspector,
Okay.
and there are some aspects that are not directly can be achieved by an automated tool. Like you can achieve maybe security level 2 compliance, security level 3 and 4 compliance requires penetration testing also. So that's a manual effort that you need to do.
Right.
So this current version of the tool would support security level 2 compliance, but there are discussions that they might release for security level 3 and 4 with some additional effort that you need to do and then put the data so that it can tell you these are your compliance list for your product. It
Okay,
is
that's
available in the
interesting.
website. Yeah, and you can go and then check its Synex Security Inspector.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting, Shiv. Yeah, but it's required also. It definitely make our lives easier. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so mm, I think I did not understand this question. Shiva Prakash PMS has asked us like Nozomi Guardian connecting to CMC at SOAP for authentication.
Uh,
Maybe it's just answer to some previous question.
Probably. I think he answered some of our question connecting to CMC at SOC for authentication. Maybe it's a machine-to-machine authentication. He's pointing. Shiva is pointing.
Possibly. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm also noticing today that some of the questions are not coming to our chat box, so I'm not able to take, but maybe I'll read it out.
Right.
Uh, where Vineet is asking this question, where would we be able to get information about the security controls to be implemented for particular SL? Yeah.
Hmm.
So this is straightforward available in the IC 62443-4-2 standard.
Yeah.
You can take this from the standard itself.
Yeah.
Then there are questions about how do we do testing of embedded system?
Hmm. Right. So I think I can take this question. So yes, of course, uh, testing of an embedded system is very similar to testing an hardware, right? Even our controller is an embedded system. So have all the things that we have discussed in the meeting, all these techniques can be used to do the testing on embedded system. But definitely a pen testing, to start with, a pen testing would be a appropriate shift to get the entire list of vulnerabilities, and you can also go with a proof exploit report at the end of pen testing. So pen testing could be a point. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then there is a question from Gupta Boda that most of the OT systems are sessionless and userless. How critical is access control?
Hmm. Gupta about so hi Gupta. So I think it's about is Gupta is speaking about machine to machine comms, sessionless.
Yeah.
Is it
I
Shiv?
think this
Yeah.
question, yeah, I think this question is previous to when you mentioned machine to machine communication. And
Understood.
we have answered it already that yeah, this
Understood.
authentication is at least required, and when you go up the ladder in the Purdue model, is
Hmm.
happening at the lower layer. The authentication at the SCADA HMI operator level will take care of this role-based access control.
Yeah. And one thing to add is, Shiv, for this sessionless communications, of course, it is there in our legacy systems. For the sessionless communications, it is hard to do the machine-to-machine authentication. So far, it's been challenging, but probably alternative, the communications can be brought in with the development team support. For example, we can move away from such comms, and we can take some we can implement https, opc ua. So this kind of supporting communications, which supports
Yeah.
sessions. Yeah.
Or you can use an adapter to convert that communication with this if you
Right.
have some requirement to traverse your zone boundary or secure boundaries.
Right.
Yeah, so this is it. I think there are a bunch of comments appreciating the effort. So thanks everyone for joining today, taking out your time. And I hope we are able to give some knowledge to you about product testing. Thanks to Sakti for preparing the slide deck and taking time today for discussing his experience and then giving some thoughts on securing industrial products. Thank you, Sakti. Thanks
Great.
for your time.
Thank you, Shiv. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Thank you.